in my own hometown. Stranger.
Hi folks, Little John here. We're out in the brewery, but we're not brewing anything at the moment. Today's just a little bit of a quick chat about yeast. I'm in the process. You can't see it. I've got some multi-water, some wort going on for a yeast starter, which I'm doing a separate video on as part of the brew school. Because there's always a lot of people asking about how to do yeast starters and whatnot, so that's coming along. But what I have a quick chat about is yeast banking, process, keeping yeast in numbers on hand ready to use, so you've always got a supply. And there's a couple of reasons why you want to do it. Now, people have yeast. Everyone's got yeast. We've got to have yeast for beer. So it's not uncommon for people to have a whack of packets of various packets of dry yeast sitting around in the sitting in the brew fridge, ready to go, so they can stick an USA 5 or some Nottingham into their brew. But that requires going out and buying this stuff every time you want to use it. And also, this stuff's pretty readily available. But when you want to start getting into unusual yeast or something a little bit different, then the yeast isn't quite so readily available. Just an example here, I've got a Copenhagen lager yeast. I used to use Danish lager from yeast, which you can no longer get, which is an exact reason why this sort of thing banking your yeast can be really beneficial and can be really important. I use that Danish lager yeast in my comp lager, and it's a very important part of that beer. I now can't get it. The Copenhagen yeast from White Labs, I'm assuming, is very, very similar, but I've have not got access to that strain that I prefer to use in that beer. So had I banked that yeast, which was what I wanted to, I can't get hold of it, then that would have been a good thing. The other thing, again, it's not useful. It's stuff that's unusual, a bit hard to get to. I'm in the bush. If I want liquid yeast, I've got to ship it in. It takes time. It's not ideal, particularly in summer. It's stinking hot. It's not a good thing to do. And it costs. You pay a whack in postage, so the yeast ends up costing even more by doing it that way. So if I can get it in amounts and actually make put in the yeast bank, I've always got it. I don't need to keep buying it. Stuff like San Francisco lager yeast. Nice Belgian ale. Again, not something you're brewing all the time, but it's nice to have these sort of things on hand when you want to. It gives you a lot more options in the brew when you go and go, okay, what am I going to brew? And you've got more than two yeasts to choose from. I used to have, I was yeast banking a few years back, and I stopped doing it. Basically, I just didn't have time around shift work and nonsense, and it was just easier to buy the yeast. But I've got to the point now where I'm working more steady hours. I'm not doing shifts. I'm working 9 to 5, 4 days a week. I've got more time to do things and do it, so I can focus on this a little bit more. I do have some stuff here. I've got there's a White Labs 007, which top of my head is there's Pilsner yeast. I've got a couple of those. Mangrove's Jack's 15, which off the top of my head would be the Empire Ale. And there's enough there that I can make a starter up and bang that into a batch, as long as I can start a couple of days beforehand. So it's all good. I've got other yeast here. Got a slurry there of White Labs Mexican lager yeast. That could do with a rinsing, but it wasn't rinsed. But that will get a rinse now. I'm getting back into the thing. And that's a recent one. That's actually White Labs European Ale. That's been rinsed and washed. I used half of that in the starter on my last batch, which was the watermelon Yeast, the sour ghost style. And there's enough there that I can make another batch out of that with a starter, no problem at all. Obviously, vials, preferred storage method. I just, the jars are just around. That's just convenient. I've got a couple of these still floating around. I bought a whack a while back. I've got some more on order, and they're a good size. They're 50ml. They stand up. They've got a nice flat bottom. They've got a conical shape. They're perfect. I think I just picked up 30. I think off eBay for under $10 delivered. I just have to wait a couple of weeks for them to get here from our mates over there in China. I could have bought them here for 3 times the price. Got them in 4 days and still got the same product. So I'm happy to wait a couple of weeks. That's not an issue. Again, you got to be money savvy. That's what we're doing. We're brewing beer. Big focus is to save money, and this is a big part of what we're doing here. So, what the premise of what we're doing is basically taking a yeast, growing it, and then keeping the samples of it in a way that we can reuse and keep. So I can take my one fact safe Nottingham just as an example, wouldn't matter, doesn't matter what it is, whichever yeast, and make up a starter. And once that starter is completed, I'm not going to pitch it onto a beer. Well, I am, but what for the purpose of the Yeast Bank is that I will build that starter a little bit bigger than what I need. Now, using calculators online to calculate how much there is. So once I've finished the starter, I may have 100ml of good ready to go yeast, and what I might then do is pitch 70ml of that yeast into the beer I'm making, and the other 30ml will go into this vial. Let's let that Pilsner yeast there. There's about 20ml, and these vials are a bit hard. The markings aren't great on them. That's somewhere around 20ml in there, 25ml, and that's plenty big enough to use to make a starter going on. The other way you can do it is just simply by taking that one packet, making a small starter, a normal sort of size starter, and then splitting that into 2 to keep. And that's what most of the bank will do. So then what you have is going forward, you can take one half of your sample, just using the 2 there as an option. I can take one, I can make that into a starter, I can brew with it. And I've still got another vial of that yeast sitting in the Yeast Bank. And what you want to do then to maintain the maximum usage and getting the best dollar value out of it is that you will run this yeast that you pitch onto your beer, you'll wash, rinse and keep again. And then what you'll get from that is, from washing, and you'll get 2 more vials. So you've still got your original in your bank. You've then now got 2 new vials. This, for the sake of arguing, is generation 0. It hasn't been used to brew with. It's only made a starter. It's only been reinvigorated and these fellas have done a brew, so they're now generation 1. What you then do rolling forward is one of those goes back into your yeast bank, and next time you brew, you make another starter with that one. And obviously again at the end of the brew you can then wash and and keep your yeast, and you can again split it again and keep 2, then have 4 samples of the one yeast, and that then becomes generation 2. And you can do that and go forward and continue on. Now, it's sort of recommended you don't go beyond about between 4 and 6 generations using this process, especially in a home brew situation where we aren't using sterile labs and airtight and all the rest of it. So there is an amount of airborne bacteria that can work its way into the process. So these yeasts will tend to change a little bit if they keep being reused. So you don't want to push them too far. I'm happy under this cycle to push a yeast to generation 3, so you can get 3 beers out of a vial. So since that one vial you'll get from that initial first packet, you're going to get somewhere around 12 beers from that one pack. So that pack of yeast that cost you $5 will pitch into 12 beers. So that's 40 cents or thereabouts per beer. Now you can stretch it a little bit further. If you want to go generation 5, you can go even further. You can push it to as much as 20 brews from that one initial yeast. So even if you're buying a liquid yeast and you're paying $13, even $20 with delivery, it's still bringing your cost down to around under $2 at the very most, per brew, even as low as $1, depending on how far you want to push it. So the economics are very good. If you're saving $10, $15 a brew, you're doing lagers, you can save $15 a brew by not buying 3 packets of liquid yeast, dry yeast, or 2 packs of liquid yeast. And it's not difficult. A little bit of minor equipment, a stir plate and a flask, or again, go into the starter video to watch that process, and you'll see the equipment that's required. You can do that nice and cheap. So you very quickly start going from your 1 pack of yeast, and you've now got 4 vials of that one yeast, and they're all different. They're going to be at different generations. The original, your generation 2, and then 3 and 4. So you can start getting quite a lot of yeast, and as I said, you start seeing how cheap they get. So once this yeast gets to generation 4, you brew with it and you toss it out. It's gone, and you go back to generation 1, then you start again, generation 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 again. You get rid of 1, and you keep working your way down, and you end up getting back to your original generation, which is split back into your 2, and go on. So at some point, you need to go out and buy yourself another packet of yeast. But by then you've made so much bloody beer, you've killed so many brain cells, you don't really care. Or you've saved so much bloody money. You can buy the yeast while you're on holidays in some foreign land. This yeast is from what is it, Lallymond? I think this is bloody made in France. No, it's made in Canada. So with the money you save, you can go and buy your yeast from Canada, bring it back with you. Take your you're not going to save enough money to go to Canada, unless you're a real pisshead and drink a shitload of beer. But you're going to save a lot of money. So Yeast Bank is back underway for Little John's. We're getting into it. We'll go along. So if you do like to use various kinds of yeast in your beer, like a little bit of experimentation, pushing your styles a little bit and getting a little bit of variety, so you're stepping away from just a basic USA 5 or SO4 or Nottingham. This is a really good way of doing it, and not spending a lot of money on going. If you just want to save money, even if you are using USO 5, brew in, brew out, you're making the same sort of thing over and over, it's still going to save you lots of money. You know, it's not hard to do. It's a little bit extra work. It's not much. Saves you cash. You know, and there is an argument that the first generation yeast will provide a better finished product than your original yeast on its first pitch. That's something I'm going to look at in another video at some point. The difference between, you know, a clean generation and an actual, it's, you know, first or second generation where it's already undergone a ferment, see if it makes any difference. But yeah, as I said, it's a good way to have plenty of yeast on hand, save yourself some money. So as the videos on the starters will be there. There's other videos on yeast for each channel. Have a look at them on how to work with your yeast. But yeah, certainly recommend if you're serious. Yeah, if you are doing lots of yeast or lots of various brews, it's worth considering. Definitely worth looking at doing. Even if it's just a point of minor amounts, just to cut your cost down a little bit. So that's me for today with this one. I'm not going to. There's nothing to look at. There's no demonstrations or anything. Just a quick overview. And as I said, if you've got any questions about the Yeast Bank and how it works, or suggestions how you can set it up, stick them down the bottom. Hit the subscribe button down there if you haven't already. Grab yourself a beer and have a look at some of the other videos and see where you're going. So until I'm looking at you again, we're playing around with some beer. Good brewing.